My guest today on Life Stories is an inspirational cancer survivor from Halesowen who has set out on a unique global challenge by using only pedal and paddle power. His mission is simple: to raise £240,000 for Macmillan Cancer Support. And during this unique three-legged endurance test, he, along with his team, have become world record breakers when they cross the Atlantic. It's an amazing story. So let's say a very big hello and welcome on dry land to Sam Greatrex. So Sam, welcome. You've done some amazing things. As I said, you're from Halesowen, and when you were 10, you were diagnosed with cancer. So what do you remember about that period of your life?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, it started over the course of several consecutive nights where I just experienced at first quite a mild pain in my stomach, which just kind of caused a bit of a disruptive night's sleep, and we didn't really think too much of it. And my parents as well, they kind of chalked it down to just perhaps being a bit of an exception and maybe just give it a bit of time. And that kind of escalated a couple of nights later into what was quite an excruciating pain. And so we kind of popped to the GPs initially, and they recommended that we go to the Children's Hospital to get checked over. And it was kind of there that the doctor who we spoke to suggested that that this in fact was a form of cancer. And so, from in the course of probably a couple of weeks, it was literally going from not knowing anything was wrong to being in hospital and undergoing the initial stages of preparation for an operation. And yeah, very much a situation which none of us were expecting.
Was this the first incidence that you know of a cancer in your family?
Yeah, at the time it was the first experience of cancer that I'd had, other than hearing perhaps on the news of people being diagnosed, and within my family there was no kind of personal experience, or nobody knew of anybody that had received treatment for cancer. So there was kind of a lot for us to understand, and there was a lot for us to learn, but yeah, that's kind of how we came about the diagnosis.
So in your 10, excuse me, you've got a pretty good knowledge of the news and current affairs to a certain extent at 10 years of age.
No, well, I'd say I just knew about football, and that was about
it.
Oh,
really?
At 10 years old. Yeah.
So that was a sort of very normal boyhood. But did the word mean a real showstopper for you when you heard the word of cancer?
There was probably more naivety to it than that. My probably first point of reference for cancer was that you'd lose your hair, and that was a side effect of the treatment. And that was kind of, rather than thinking and giving consideration that this could be potentially fatal, it was kind of, I'm going to lose my hair. How are kids in the playground going to react to that, and is that going to be embarrassing? So there was a huge amount of naivety to it, really, and that probably was, good in that, I wasn't perhaps too concerned about the actual chemotherapy treatment, and it was just a case of, I'm just going to get through this and then worry about my hair loss when it comes to it. And that's probably why, the support we received from Macmillan was so good, because my parents had a more well-rounded understanding of the implications for cancer. And my Macmillan nurse was able to kind of reassure them through the process and explain in quite logical terms, this is the treatment course that Sam will have.
And this is a lady that you've now known for 18 years, is it?
Yeah, so, well, actually, it's 20 years now.
20 years now. Goodness me.
Yeah.
And so has she become, well, a special friend, but that's an amazing story that she was treating you then as a boy, and as an adult she's retired now, but she's still there if you ever want to give her a call. That's an incredible sort of duty of care, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that the level of care that Moira provided was just above and beyond anything that you could reasonably expect. And so she was there right from the initial diagnosis when I was 10 years old, and then we continued to meet through annual checkups right through until her retirement. So that kind of spanned about 17 years in total. And yeah, she was just every bit as enthusiastic and helpful through every session that we ever had.
And when were you told that you were basically clear of the cancer?
Yeah, so fortunately it was a 6-month course of chemotherapy treatment that I received. And following on from the last scheduled chemotherapy treatment, there was some observation, and the doctors who were monitoring me said that Sam's clear to go into remission. And fortunately, there's been no relapse of the cancer since then, so relatively healthy throughout all that time.
So by the time you're in your mid-teens and probably onwards, you began to feel, right, I can just get on with my life and do all the things that I've been dreaming about and aspiring to. So what next? You leave school in Halesowen and it's off to university. So what did you read?
Yeah, I studied English literature. And yeah, through my school years, and another reason why Macmillan did me such a great service as well was, in my mind, I kind of put the cancer to one side. I finished primary school. My hair had grown back by that time, and it was kind of, okay, that's something that happened in the past now, and I can start fresh in high school. And so if kind of any, social things or, developing kind of health issues did arise, then I could always go to Moira separately, and it was kind of just a nice opportunity to just be able to part social life and medical life completely. And so kind of by the time...
So you had fun at university?
Yeah. So at university, it was there kind of that I was, just kind of discovering my own independence, and it was there that I first kind of looked at ways to kind of fundraise for the charity and to give something back to, a service which should help me out so much. And just as a way of kind of helping Macmillan reach as many people with the same level of support that I received.
So you were looking back to the care you'd received from Birmingham Children's Hospital and the QE, and of course your Macmillan nurse Moira. Give her another name check. And so at what point did you think about some serious fundraising?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really pinpoint a specific moment, really, which makes me question how crazy it was. It just kind of, materialised. And so with no great background in cycling or, adventure, I just decided to kind of pop down to Australia and cycle
Just pop down to Australia?
Yeah. I mean, there's no real kind of... I can't honestly remember the moment I thought about the idea. It was just, how can I fundraise for Macmillan? It probably tied into a bit of a gap year, so I wanted to see a few friends that were in Australia, and I thought, okay, well, let's have a cycle ride from East Coast to West Coast. And
how many miles?
Would be 3,000 miles.
So you went down to do a little bit of fundraising, family and friends to start with. So you must have done an incredible amount of training to get rid of it.
No, I mean, it was half a mile. I think I managed training.
What? Pardon?
So the bike that I was using, that had to undergo some late maintenance. And so the training that I was hoping to do and the training plan that I was due to embark on, that kind of got delayed.
So, sorry, am I getting this right? You went to Australia with a plan to cycle 3,000 miles and you did a half a mile of training before you went?
Yes, that's
right.
Well, yeah.
Wasn't that crazy?
Yeah, a lot of people thought that, but it was kind of, I'd kind of allowed myself a lot of time to cycle, and so I could kind of grow into the physical demands of the journey. And so I started off relatively slowly, with about 60 miles in the first day, and then just kind of developed from there.
Sam, that's incredible. But you must have been fit. I mean, apart from specific cycling and training for that, were you fit?
Yeah, I'd just say I was just fairly average fitness levels at that point, and it was just kind of, this idea to help Macmillan had obviously, given me enough strength to kind of just say, well, if I'm not fit enough, then I'm going to keep going on regardless, and so that's kind of how that journey developed.
And during that time, you must have challenged yourself both physically and mentally to keep going, which prepared you for bigger things to come. So in part 2 of this program, we'll talk about the amazing things that you decided that you do with others to raise more money in the battle and the research for cancer. So Sam, when we come back, we'll continue your story. Welcome back to Life Stories. Our guest today is Sam Greatrex from Halesowen, diagnosed with cancer at 10, later cleared after treatment at Birmingham Children's Hospital, and now raising funds for Macmillan Cancer Support. Sam has cycled across Australia, rode the Atlantic, and there is more to come. So you were 23 when you finished you completed your cycle ride in Australia, 3,000 miles, and big ideas are beginning to brew. Talk us through them.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was quite prepared to say that's enough adventure for one life, but the Australia cycle ride didn't quite raise as much money as I hoped and as I felt that Macmillan deserved from the support that I'd received. And so it was really a way of thinking, how can we best reach more people? And how can we help more people to donate to Macmillan and kind of give them enough encouragement that they feel their donations are being well spent. And so it was kind of then that I just looked for an idea that was really going to capture people's minds, and my friends and family, they like to see me sweat for the donations. So it was really a way of thinking, how can we raise the bar a little bit more and help raise a little bit more money for Macmillan.
So here you are again, you've done this trip, and I think it's worth just repeating what you told us in part 1, that you've just done a half mile of training, literally. You just got on a bike and done a half a mile, go to Australia, do 3,000 miles on your trusty bike. It must be a big friend, this bicycle behind us.
Yeah, and an enemy in equal measure, I think.
Yes. So you come back, and this 3-legged attack at going around the world or doing an incredible trip. How long did it take you to prepare that?
Well, the actual idea itself of travelling, as far as I could by human power, that came about fairly quickly, and it was a way of thinking, well, I quite enjoy cycling from time to time. I'll cycle the land portions of the route, but then obviously once you reach the west coast of Portugal, you're faced with the North Atlantic Ocean.
But talk us through the route that you designed, you planned.
Yeah, sure. So the official start point was in Paris, although we cycled from Halesowen to the south coast of England before that, just alongside my friends. And then from Paris, we headed through France and through Spain and west to Portugal. So that was kind of the first section of the journey, which spanned 2,000 miles. And nothing too dramatic or adventurous to it, really. It was just quite an enjoyable cycle ride. And the biggest concern each day was really which patisserie shop to stop off at. It was all very nice and a good experience.
Where were you sleeping? In camping or?
I was actually using a couch surfer. So people would just kind of offer up their houses, and it would be a bed or a couch in their house. So I'd never travelled in that way before, but it was just a fantastic experience to meet somebody at the end of the day and to kind of be able to interact with them and just kind of experience the town as they know, really. It was like having your own tour guide for a day. So that was great. And then after a couple of weeks of preparing with the ocean rowing boat that we have, it was from the south coast of Portugal that we set off to row across the North Atlantic Ocean.
So talk us through who are your colleagues, your team members?
Yeah, so I ran a recruitment process probably a good year before we actually set out to sea. So we were looking for guys that were, highly motivated and perhaps had done some form of endurance event spanning weeks and months, which is what we were expecting for the North Atlantic Ocean. And we were fortunate to receive a lot of interest. And a friend of mine, Tara Adams, she was the first to kind of commit to the row. So that was, that went from being
Similar age?
Yeah, a couple of years older than me, but she actually was England Ladies Tug of War, so she had a big pedigree in kind of great physical achievement, and we took on several other guys, Jim Alsford, Nick Sen, and Ralph Tuin. And the kind of recruitment process really spanned a year because Ralph, we only met 2 days before we embarked on the road.
No, he was your skipper, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
So he had specific experience of the rowing leg.
That's right. So Ralph had several Atlantic crossings under his belt, so vastly experienced. And the reason for recruiting him at such short notice was we had a withdrawal 2 weeks before we were due to set off. So we had to, put out all these kind of adverts to, desperately search for an ocean rower. Ralph fortunately responded. And actually the first time we rowed with him was the day we set off. So we had no practice at all with Ralph.
That's amazing, isn't it? I mean, you think that when you're planning a cycle ride like the one in Australia, that there's significant training. Then when you're doing the cycle ride down through Europe, the west coast down to Portugal, that also requires training. And the fact that you meet up and 2 days later you're setting out across the Atlantic, that's incredible.
Yeah, well, I probably wouldn't have taken that chance on any old body because we were kind of 2 years in, physical training. And then in terms of actual boat training and the skills that we'd require to keep ourselves fed and watered and use all the systems on board, that spanned probably a couple of months. So just to have the option of Ralph, who, had the know-how and actually, had sea going experience, that was really invaluable for us. It was just a real coup to get him at such short notice.
So although they are marvellous achievements, Sam, the cycling is kind of understandable because most of us have ridden bicycles, but then to get in a craft to cross the Atlantic, that is something else. I mean, that is just facing danger.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there are inherent dangers to that, and we faced kind of 10-metre waves while out there, and so there's the size of a house bearing down on you. And
you'd never done anything like this before?
Yeah, I'd never been in an ocean rowing boat prior to the training, and no river rowing experience.
So what experience had you got on water, on waves?
The day before we set off, was the first time I'd been in the boat at sea.
You're not serious?
No, that's true. So the intention...
The Birmingham spirit, eh?
Yeah, well, mad again,
Forward.
I think. That's shorthand for. So the intention was long before to have seagoing experience, and we encountered problems with a boat that we were due to use. So a lot of ocean rowers, and I couldn't believe them, said the hardest bit of this challenge is getting a boat to the start line to begin this challenge. And so that materialised for us as well.
So what was it like as you're crossing the Atlantic? Did you fall out? Did you have little tiffs, or were you united all the time?
Yeah, well, we were 51 days at sea. And so I would say we did well in that time. I don't think we had any, soap opera moments where, there were big arguments. It was nothing like that. Nothing other than, a bit of tetchiness perhaps that you would probably expect naturally in 51 days.
A dangerous moment? Were there any dangerous moments?
A few, you really, nothing that jeopardised our health out there, but we had a few waves which washed over the boat, and you really feel the force of the ocean when you're just swamped by a wave and it breaks over the boat. And that can really kind of test your thinking of, should I be here at the moment or should I be at home? And
did you ever once think, I wish I hadn't have started this?
No, and I was expecting to, because once you're out there, there's just no alternative. You have to be on this boat. There is no getting away from it.
I think you've done so well to have done that. That really is another achievement. But it's not over yet. Just talk us through what's happening next.
Yep, so the progression of the journey is to continue cycling from the east coast to South America and cycle via the Amazon and up over the Andes Mountains to arrive at the west coast of South America, which is about 3,000 miles.
And you're starting that in April?
As soon as I can sit down on a saddle again, basically.
Oh, without being too basic, you are suffering a little bit at the moment, are you?
That's right, yeah. So 51 days on a rowing seat will hurt quite a lot. And so it's just kind of enjoying cushioned seats while I can and putting up a saddle for as long as I can.
And lots of cream, presumably, and
Yes.
yes, to heal up. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I can only say I'm really impressed with what you've done, and you're well on your way to the target of £240,000 for cancer research and supporting your chosen charity. Briefly, what next?
After South America, a well-earned rest, I think. I'll probably do one or two fundraisers for Macmillan, but yeah, I'm just enjoying the rest, the idea of a rest.
Well, what a great story. So we've heard about your achievements, we've heard about your supportive family, and that that special lady, Moira. And Sam, thank you very much indeed for telling us your life story. Thank you.